All right, we're going to jump right into it. So I just want to document some of my NixOS journey, where I'm at now, some of the struggles I've had, just because I've been really bad at documenting everything as it changes. So right now, I have a laptop at home that I was barely using and a gaming tower that I was also using. Both were running Nix, but this weekend I imaged my tower over to proxmox and I redid my desk setup so my laptop is on a hub that goes to everything. So now my laptop will be my daily driver. My Proxmox is running a couple of VMs, and eventually you'll be having some local cloud storage for myself on it. I started out with GNOME, went over to KDE, and eventually jumped over to an i3 window tiling window manager. But that's on X, and if you watch any YouTube in the Linux community for any amount of time, right now everyone's given all the hype up to Wayland being the future, but GNOME is a little too cookie cutter for me. So I tried Sway, which is like the Wayland version of i3, and I was just getting pissed because I mean it runs smooth and it was great, but I ran into two issues. One was just I messed up on some virtual manager things that I didn't understand, but now I understand, which was not Sway's fault. But the other was I was just watching too many YouTube videos where people are running Hyprland, and I just liked the way it looked. I liked the animations. I liked how simple everything was, and so now I'm trying that out. So right now I am on Hyperland with Waybar. You'll see up at top my Waybar is super simple. It just has the date in the middle and the tray on the right. I do not care about the CPU and the RAM and the volume and all of that. Eventually, when I unplug my laptop from the power, I probably will want a battery monitor, but right now I just like things simple. Yep. So there we go. I am running ZSH for my shell, Tmux for the terminal, and Alacrity for the emulator. Some other things that I did do. Let's go take a look at my config. So I had my base config there, and then I have something for GNOME, which is commented out in the config, something for Sway, which is commented out in the config. So it's just looking at config, hardware config, Hyperland packages, and the GoXLR. The GoXLR is just the audio device that I'm using. We can look at that real quick. So yeah, so GNOME's commented out, Sway's commented out, and Hyperland's what I'm using to interact with my device right now. The thing that was tripping me up on Sway was I was missing a group on my user account, this libvirtd right here. You absolutely do need that if you're going to be running virtual machines and virtual manager. Because with Sway, what was happening is it was prompting for root because I didn't have this group, and Sway was blocking the pop-up prompt for root. But then if you add this, it doesn't do that. So Sway is fine, but it's just not as pretty. Anyway, to get a look at the proxmox stuff that's going on, let's see where that is. Right here. Proxmox right now is just running two VMs. It's a Fedora server 41 that's running Splunk and a RHEL 8 server running Splunk SOAR. Right now, Splunk is just ingesting the syslog from my Unify controller. We wanted to take a look at that config. In the Unify controller, it's just system integrations, sim server. You can decide how much there. I was doing debug logs, but even when I uncheck debug logs, I'm getting over a gig a day of syslog from this thing. I'm sending it over on 6154. It's supposed to, syslog's 514. And because it's not a root account, it's an unprivileged install for Splunk. You don't have access to those low level things. So I was going to do 6514, but I fat fingered it. So that's what it stayed as. Where is that? And it comes over on UDP, but there it is right there, 6154. The other thing on my Proxmox is SOAR. Soar and Splunk are not talking to each other yet because of SSL certificate stuff that I have to work out, but I'm hoping to do that. It looks like there might be a way to do that in proxmox itself. Certificates, yeah, but I haven't played with this at all. So looking forward to that. And the other thing I'm looking forward to on proxmox is setting up some local cloud storage, NAS, whatever. Instead of doing this analogy, I have a decent hard drive on here. So I have to figure out how I want to do that. If I need to spin up another VM and put TrueNAS or something cute like Zima on there, or if there's like a local integrated thing built into proxmox for storage across the devices. So that's what's going on with that. But yeah, everything right now otherwise is on my laptop. The other thing I finally did was these NixOS configs that I was having trouble with, because when I was running on the tower, I have an NVIDIA card, of course. Nix doesn't play nice with NVIDIA on Linux, so I mean it does way better than it used to, but I just decided to have a config for that. Let me see where I set that up. All right, so here we go. So here I'm syncing these up to GitHub. If you want to see that at all, you just go to GitHub. It's github.com/bdjarmor/NixOS. And all the configs are here. Obviously, you pick one like GNOME or Hyprland or Sway. You don't do all three. But the other stuff is independent. Configuration calls those. Hardware config should come from your machine itself. GoXLR is my audio device. NVIDIA, if you have NVIDIA. Packages has all my programs that I usually use. So like Codium, OBS Studio, all that jazz. Virtual has everything for like QEMU and VMware Workstation. Yeah, it's right here. So I don't know if this VMware Nix does anything because I'm not calling it. I'm not importing it at all, but I kept it just in case I need it for the future. This is the .config file for your user account so that you can get Alacrity. There's only two things in here. One is opacity for transparency, and one is tmux. So it starts with tmux. GoXLR utility is just settings.json. Hyprland. I have Hyperpaper and Hyprland.conf in here. Sway has the config file, which is similar to Hyprland. And then Waybar, if you were to look at this, I just basically commented out everything on the actual bars themselves. So modules right is just the tray, which is this guy in the top right, and then module center's clock up in the top. And I did change the format on clock so that it is year, month, day, hour, minute. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. There's definitely some struggles sometimes figuring these things out, but it is a lot of fun. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. If you have any direction. A couple things I want to start looking into that I'm not familiar with. One is Flakes for NixOS. Everyone loves Flakes, and when I've tried to emulate some people's setup by going to their GitHub and pulling down their Flakes, I always end up with problems. So I'm sure it's a me problem doing something wrong. Another thing I want to investigate is doing some stuff with Docker. I'm not doing anything with Docker yet, even if it's just to learn it. And another idea there is I'm going through some hacking classes online, some guides, and so setting up a local hacking lab, whether that's through Docker that's ephemeral, or doing it on proxmox, or just doing it locally on the laptop, having VMs on there. Another thing I need to figure out is the floating window stuff on Hyprland. There's documentation out there. I just haven't dug into it. Right now, everything just takes up all the space, which is what a tiling manager does. But you see all these cool stuff on Unix porn, so I at least want to try it out and see if I can figure it out. Anyways, if any of this has been helpful to you, let me know. If it hasn't, let me know too. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.